Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Terrifier 2. So I know I'm pretty late to the party in regards to this movie. I was gonna see it in the theater when it initially came out, or I was planning on seeing it on Screambox because they were doing a thing where like it came out simultaneously as like a Screambox exclusive when it was in theaters. Um, but I don't know. I just never really got around to seeing it when it initially came out. I didn't even see the first Terrifier until like a couple years after it came out. Um, but I don't know. Just it just didn't work out. I was hyped up to see it when it initially released, but I, I just with like my schedule and stuff, I didn't really like find a good time to go to the theater, and then I didn't feel like getting a whole subscription to Screambox and then deleting it and blah blah blah. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just probably pick it up on DVD eventually. I know this sounds crazy, but a lot of times like I don't care to see stuff like right when it comes out. I'm like, it'll probably come to like other streaming services eventually, and it did. I was like scrolling on Tubi for new movies, and I saw this, and I was like extremely excited. Had to see it right away. Um, yeah, and I'm really happy that I saw it because I thought this movie was fantastic, which is really good because I had kind of mixed anticipations about this movie. Like, there was that whole delay where it was, with COVID and stuff, the release got pushed back, and I was kind of following the release, and I was like really hyped up for this movie because I'm so sick of this era of. So you had the remake era of the 2000s and early 2010s. For the most part, I really like that era. I mean, there's some terrible remakes like I don't like the first Rob Zombie Halloween. I don't like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, but the Friday the 13th remake is so good. That's one of my favorite Friday the 13th. I really like the My Bloody Valentine remake. Those are all I can think of right now, but the Maniac remake is really good. Um, House of Wax is decent. Yeah, I like that era, but this new era where you have like Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. I didn't even see Halloween Ends because it looks so bad, and then you have like the new Scream movies coming out. I'm just like skipping all that stuff because it's played out at this point. It's like you already had the remakes, and now like I don't know what this era is. Like, what is it? The reboot era, or are they called requels? I don't even know, but like all the big franchises are played out. And that being said, I love all the big franchises, but I'm sick of them, and it's like they're like it's like stupid at this point. So this movie I was really excited for. It's like a fresh franchise. All Hallows Eve, I absolutely love. The first Terrifier, I love, and this I was really hyped up about. But I'm like, okay, like what if it sucks? Like I I've been waiting quite a while for it, and I liked the first one, and there's like so much hype around it. I'm like, I would be really disappointed if it sucks, because I feel like this this movie, like it it gives me like I want this franchise to be amazing because it gives me like optimism for the horror genre as a whole. Like, okay, like new slasher icons can come out, new horror franchises that are more like independently minded can come out, and like do well. And I mean, we've seen that this movie made a ton of money. I think it was super solid. super well done, and it gives me like so much optimism for the future of the horror genre because like I mean like it could be argued that not horror as a whole, but like the slasher genre, it could be argued that it's just completely dead at this point. It's just completely played out. But this movie is fresh, but at the same time, it's like such a throwback, such a love letter to 80s slashers. Like it was awesome. It totally I don't know if it exceeded my expectations, but it definitely met like my high expectations. I thought it was extremely awesome. So first things first, going through my list, I gotta give a big shout out to Damien Leone. He wrote it, he directed it, he edited it. That didn't sound right. I think I said that right. And he produced it. So and I'm pretty sure he did all the makeup because in the first one he did all the makeup. He was working like 24-hour days. He would do like 6 hours of makeup. Then he wrote it. He directed it. Like that man, he's insane. Like who has that type of work ethic? Like he has the most insane work ethic I've ever heard of in the film industry. And then I got to give another big shout out to David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. Like, of course, it's not a speaking role, but the way he like emotes, the way he moves his face, the way he moves his body, he's so theatrical with it. Like he really is that like classical like clown or mime. Like he just has the movements for it. Like he just, without even saying anything, just totally kills the role. I mean, he goes hard. I mean, he totally sells it. Like, if you had the wrong actor for this movie would be lame. Not like you know what I mean, but like you have to, like, it's important. Like the killer has to be convincing. He has to be scary, but also like he balances that comedy with the scariness like extremely well, which is hard to do. I mean, with some of the later Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, they did not, like, they went too far into the comedy and it wasn't scary anymore. Art the Clown is one of the scariest slasher icons of all time, but he's still got that like that like comedic charm of like a clown or a mime or whatever he is. I don't know, but yeah, shout out to David Howard Thornton. And then shout out to like all the actors and actresses in this, but I mean the main girl Sienna was awesome, and I really liked her brother Jonathan. I liked their relationship. I liked their characters in general. They were awesome. I mean, this movie ruled. It was so awesome, and I'm pretty darn sure they're making a third one, so I'm excited for that. I mean, if they made 10 of these, that would be cool. I would definitely check them out. But yeah, that's pretty much my overall opinion. I had to give some shout outs there, and I'm just gonna get into just some random things on my notes here. So the first thing that I want to go over is I thought the score was absolutely amazing. It was like mostly like, I would say it's kind of like had like a synthwave vibe going on. I'm a big fan of synthwave music, so that was cool. And it was in my opinion, it like I said, like the movie overall, it blends like the modern stuff with the 80s vibe and all the callbacks and stuff. So the score was like a modern synthwave score, but had that synthy 80s vibe. It was absolutely amazing. And just a random scene that I really really liked was so Sienna, like a big part of the movie is like she's making this costume. She's like making it all by herself, and it's this she's kind of like a warrior, like almost like a superhero. And when after like she finishes the costume, she's suiting up, and it's almost like a montage, and they have this like super synthy score going on, and I thought it was absolutely awesome. And it really reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street 4 when Alice is like suiting up with all like the, you know, pieces of like costumes from like her friends. And I'm a big fan of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, so I like that. And it had that 80s vibe. It was like a cool little montage sequence. I really liked that. Something else that I really liked were some of the cameos. You had a cameo from Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp. I mean, you all probably know her from Sleepaway Camp, but I mean, I've checked out like so many of her movies. I'm a just huge fan of hers. I think she's awesome. Like you can tell she just like she really like cares about the genre. Like she cares about, you know, horror fans. Like she's not on some like Hollywood BS. And she I don't know. I haven't met her or anything, but like from interviews that I've listened to and this and that, like she seems like super real, like super genuine, down to earth, and she does like crazy like genre movies. She doesn't do like crazy Hollywood stuff. She does stuff like for horror fans, like hardcore stuff. So she had a small cameo, but it was cool to see her because I'm a huge fan of all her work, but I'm like a huge Sleepaway Camp fan. Sleepaway Camp is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I love the entire Sleepaway Camp franchise. It's one of my favorite horror franchises. So, I mean, one of my favorite horror actresses is in this. That's awesome. And then you also had a cameo from, let me see her name, Tamara Glynn. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but she was in Halloween 5. I think she's done a lot of other stuff as well, but she was in Halloween 5. She's the girl who got killed in the barn, and she was in the scene. Like there's a scene in a costume shop where Art killed this store clerk, and she's like trying to shop at the store like after it's closed with her son, and she had like a small cameo, but I'm a huge fan of Halloween 5 as well. I know people hate that movie, but I like the whole Thorn trilogy, Halloween 4, 5, and 6. I'm a huge fan of. I mean, I know people don't like Halloween 5 and 6, but I love them, so, you know, what are you going to do? But yeah, it was super cool to see her. She had a really small role as well, but, you know, she did a good jobby job. Another aspect of this movie that was awesome was the production design. Like Sienna's room and her brother's room had all these cool posters. Like the way like the rooms were painted, they were like colorful but like not overdone. They had like little neon lights. She had all these like skulls everywhere. And then there's this like carnival towards the end, and it I think it's like, yeah, it's like a haunted house called Terrifier, and there's all these like jump scare type things like in a haunted house. That was awesome. What else in terms of production design? Like all the Halloween set dressings, all the Halloween decorations everywhere were awesome. This movie totally like just had that Halloween atmosphere. It really felt like Halloween. It looked like Halloween. In addition to the production design though, like the lighting was on point. There was like a lot of neon lighting, colorful lighting. There was like a lot of like light blues and reds. And I'm a huge fan of neon lighting, so I thought it was pretty darn awesome. This movie, you know, it had the look, it had the great musical score. It was just like, it was just a great experience, you know. It just like really like sucked you in. Like I was just like invested, you know. I was like heck yeah, like let me like strap up, like I'm ready for the ride. Like I was just like paying attention so much to this movie. I was just like entranced in it. I'm like, all right, like this is what's up. Like I was not like trailing off like, oh, this is so boring, blah blah blah. Like it kept me entertained, and that's all we need, so it was all good. Another thing that I thought was really cool that I want to point out is that in the beginning it starts off right after the events of the first movie. I like that. I always like continuity, and that really reminded me of Halloween 2. And in that like beginning sequence where it's like the night of the first movie, like after the first movie, you see Art like walking down an alley and then like the cops drive by. That was like straight out of Halloween 2. That was awesome. Um, and then after that, it jumps to 1 year later on Halloween, which is pretty darn cool. Like, you know, there like a lot of the slasher franchises, besides Halloween, they don't really have anything to do with Halloween. I like how every movie in this franchise is tied to the holiday Halloween. Like it totally just has the atmosphere on point, all kinds of Halloween vibes going on. It's awesome. It's probably like sacrilegious that I watched this, you know, in the summer, but what are you gonna do? It was free on streaming. I had to watch it. And plus, I've been like wanting to see this for a long time, so whatever. Usually, like I mean, in the past, I wouldn't care about watching stuff like at a certain time. Like I would watch like one time I watched like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Christmas, but like nowadays I try to like watch like the summer horror movies in the summer, and then I watch like Halloween themed horror movies in October in the fall. But I mean sometimes I break that rule a little bit. I mean it's like a self-imposed rule. Who cares? I can watch anything whenever. But yeah, you know, sometimes it's kind of cool to watch stuff um when it's like not in season, because then it just like makes you, you know, think about that season and like get excited for the season. And I don't know, you get in that Halloween mood, you get that Halloween feeling going on. Um, Another thing that I thought was super darn cool about this movie was just how like Art came back from the dead, because like a lot of other horror icons, like a lot of slasher icons, especially like the big three, you know, they always die and then come back, and it's always just like kind of silly. Like they would have never survived, and you know they're resurrected by like lightning or like a dog's piss, or like they think about their niece being alive or something. You know what I mean? It's like I love that. That's like such a trope at this point, but like that's what's cool about slasher movies, like all the tropes. And this was like a typical slasher. You had like the main protagonist, she was like the final girl, but I mean she was like more like nuanced. She wasn't just like some cookie cutter final girl. She was like a little more like complex, but I mean it hit all the check marks of like all the, it like paid homage to all the slasher tropes, but added like a little twist, and it was like a little bit more well done. It wasn't just like cheap and cheesy. It was like, we're gonna honor this stuff but kind of do it a little bit more justice and get a little bit I wouldn't say deep, because it's like a slash movie, not deep, but they like definitely like took their time and really like, you know, cooked up all the ingredients, so to speak. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know. Maybe that was a bad analogy. Who knows? But I like in horror movies when it's just, you know, the main killer just always comes back, and it just doesn't make sense. It's like they died, they're coming back in the next one. It's like they died in this one, you know they're coming back. I like that aspect. And it was cool when he was like initially resurrected. Like I mean you didn't see him like that he was dead. You did in the first one, but then like you see like the back of his head where he like shot himself and his like brains all exposed and stuff. And then there is like a post-credit scene in this one where, you know, I'm getting into spoiler territory here, just a warning, but like at the end of this he gets his head chopped off, and then there's like a post-credit scene where this the one chick from the first one who got her face all mutilated, she like births his head and he's back. So I like, you know, slasher icons coming back in like outlandish ways and just like never dying. Um, and then I don't know, I haven't touched on this yet because this is like I mean, this is one of the craziest aspects of the movie. This is something people talk about. Like, I guess people were walking out of the theater like throwing up, but the kills and the gore were absolutely fantastic. I mean, I watch all kinds of like hardcore horror stuff, but I was shocked. I was like, oh geez, like I was like I was like cringing a little bit. There's like all the kills were actually like pretty messed up, and they definitely had that like that torture aspect, and it was like Art the Clown is just so sick, and something that was awesome about the kills is that they're all practical. There was no CGI. I mean, I think Damien Leone said that he used like a little bit of CGI, but you have to like you know, pull off like certain, you know, effects. Like, I don't know, they all movies nowadays, even if it's like mostly practical, they use a little bit of CGI, which is fine. It's not like there was like CGI monsters walking around, but the kills were awesome, super creative, super gory, super messed up, and the practical effects looked amazing. It looked so good, which you don't really see as much nowadays. I mean, everything is like so CGI nowadays. Like, you don't see that the old school practical effects. You know, I don't know. Like, even like the newer slasher movies, they are practical, but it doesn't. It's like it doesn't look. To me, it doesn't feel the same as like the older ones. This felt like the older ones, but it was like like you can tell how far the effects have come. You know, like the 80s stuff looked good, but it did in some movies like look a little more fake. This definitely looks like all the 80s like Fangoria horror effects, but like done to perfection, you know. And then yeah, I'm pretty much almost done with all my notes here. Just the last thing that I want to touch on is I've been talking about all kinds of positives. Just one negative that I had was this is getting into spoiler territory too. I think maybe, I don't know, but the whole ending with all like the supernatural stuff, it just got kind of confusing for me. It was like a little too much. It was like I just really didn't know what was going on. Like, she fell down this thing and then she's in this tank and she gets killed, but then she gets resurrected by the sword, and like it was just kind of hard to follow and kind of confusing. I didn't dislike the supernatural stuff, like the supernatural stuff of Art coming back and that little clown girl who's like kind of like a ghost or whatever. I don't know what her deal is, but I didn't mind the supernatural stuff. I thought it was cool. I mean, he died in the first one, so it's like, how else are you gonna explain that? And in the first one, I thought he was more like a demonic entity. Like, he didn't seem like 100% human, you know? Like, even in the first one, I feel like he's like doing his makeup, and when you see his actual face, like his nose and everything, he looks like, he doesn't look exactly human. But yeah, the third act and like the ending was good, but I think they went like a little too far with all the supernatural stuff, and it was like a little bit confusing and hard to follow for me. But I mean, that was pretty much my only dislike. Other than that, I thought this movie rocked. It was amazing. So as far as my recommendation, if you're a horror fan, you gotta see this. If you're not a horror fan, I mean, I think you should still see it. But if you don't have like a stomach for super gory movies, this is like one of the goriest slasher movies ever made. So if you don't have a stomach for that type of stuff, if you're squeamish, don't watch this. But yeah, I mean, if you can handle all that, definitely check this out ASAP. Don't be like me and wait like forever to watch it, like a punk, you know. But what are you gonna do? I watched it, so that's all that matters. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say for my review. Thank you very much for watching, and peace out.